Good morning, Bitcoin, and welcome to the World Crypto Network, celebrating 1 million views. We're joined by Blake Anderson, Chris Ellis, and the Vortex. But more on that later, because first, we've got some clips. So I'm going to unplug my sound, and we're going to go back in time to the beginning of the World Crypto Network. 3 years ago, when I made the first series of videos. Now, I didn't know what I wanted to do on the World Crypto Network. I knew I had mad Bitcoins, and it was kind of silly, and it was all about green screens and graphics and things. So I wanted a more serious place. And maybe I thought the Bitcoin group could go there. We'd started that a couple of weeks before. And I thought, well, I'll start it off. I'll do some coin announcements. So I went over to the Bitcoin Talk forum, and I'm not making judgment on these coins. I just read them out loud, right? I did about, I don't know, it looks like 2 rows, maybe 6. I don't know, I did about 15 of them or so. And the very first one was HunterCoin. So let's go back and let's explore HunterCoin on the World Crypto Network, our very first video.
Welcome to World Crypto Network. World Crypto Network news time, 1:53 p.m. HunterCoin launched. HunterCoin, HUC, is a P2P cryptocurrency which incorporates human mining, a blockchain-based alternate reality P2P decentralized cryptocurrency game. HunterCoin will be an experimental cryptocurrency and a 2D top-down decentralized P2P game. The majority of the coins will be generated within a game world within the blockchain. Miners will receive a percentage of coins generated in the world as taxes to encourage miners to process transactions. HunterCoin launched.
And there it is, the very first one. So let's check in on HunterCoin. We did a Google search, a lot of results. Still got a web page up. They do have a little video game like we talked about. And they're on CoinMarketCap. Looks like a bit of a fall since the beginning, but they've had a recent rise like most of the altcoins, and they are still in existence. So that's a fascinating little tidbit there about HunterCoin. And we want to go on to our next clip, which was the very first dramatic and exciting adventure on the World Crypto Network. Chris is laughing because this video actually wasn't started by me. This was started by him. Chris started a live hangout on February 25th, 2014. He invited Andreas Antonopoulos, our friend, as well as Adam B. Levine, Bonavent, I think, or the Bitcoin trader joined us. Later, Mad Bitcoins joined us. I saw Will Pangman when I was skipping through. But here's just a little bit of Andreas. And this is just on the eve of the MtGox collapse in 2014.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a World Crypto News Report. My name is Chris J. I'm from Feathercoin. I'm joined here by Andreas Antonopoulos, a Bitcoin developer, and we are reporting to you on the latest MtGox situation. This is the price on Bitstamp, according to bitcoinwisdom.com. This is the 15-minute chart. Since we last reported to you about 8 hours ago, the price has seen a little bit of a rebound, although I would draw your attention to the pretty low volumes here. So I wouldn't read too much into that at the moment. This comes off the back of recent news of what has to be one of the best announcements MtGox has ever made. It really does stand up there in a shining light, high up on the league table. In light of recent news reports and the potential repercussions on MtGox's operations on the market, a decision was taken to close all transactions for the time being in order to protect the site and our users. We will be closely monitoring the situation and will react accordingly. Best regards, MtGox team. And this comes about what must have been, Andreas, 18 to 20 hours after this leaked document emerged. What do you make of it?
I'm just, well, I mean, I'm feeling very mixed feelings right now. I'm very upset, and I'm hurt by the knowledge that it seems likely at this point that a lot of people have lost large amounts of money. And I'm angry at Carpellis and Gox for just being, at best, irresponsible on such a massive scale. I don't know what's going on any more than anybody else does. I've seen the leaked documents. I've seen the claims that all of the funds are gone. And I know that this is probably going to take weeks just to find out what exactly is going on, but certainly if this allegation or these claims were not true, I would have expected to see at the very least a statement from God saying we have the money. And the fact that they can't even make that statement is extremely worrying, and leads me to believe that it seems they don't. And so, you know, we can draw some conclusions. They had said in the past that they kept funds in cold storage. So either that cold storage wasn't actually cold, or something else is going on, something worse. And, you know, really speculating at this point without information is probably, you know, is certainly irresponsible. So all we can do is go on what information is out there and the response we see from Gox. And unfortunately, what they're doing is they're creating more uncertainty by not providing clear information to the market. You know, if the money's gone, Mark, just say, look, the money's gone, everyone. And let's move on from there and figure out how to unravel this mess.
Excellent video. We've also got this old video from the Bitcoin group, number 19, from February 28th, 2014.
Moving on. Issue 2. U.S. Senator wants to ban Bitcoin. The U.S. Senate, that august and distinguished chamber, has finally addressed Bitcoin, and with a funny fever that would make Joe McCarthy blush. Senator Manchin has called for a ban on Bitcoin because it is highly unstable and disruptive. Finally, some recognition from the Senate. Is the fine senator from the great state of West Virginia right? Should Bitcoin be banned? Davi Parker.
Come at me, bro. I mean, what are they going to do? What are they going to ban? Are they going to do house-to-house searches? What are they going to do? So, you know, in my opinion, Congress is volatile and disruptive, so maybe we should ban Congress.
Chris J.
I think justice is there to give power. It should not be the reserve of the powerful. And that's what happens at the moment. Justice is there to serve the rich, the people that can afford it. And it's not there to defend the weak, the ones that need it the most. I think I was at Warwick University yesterday. Thanks actually to Tom, because you introduced me to one of the students there who was looking for a speaker on a panel debate on the future of finance. And I have to say my expectations were, like, I was kind of expecting a lot of kind of conservatism. I was expecting people to be, you know, a bit, you know, critical of cryptocurrency, but actually, you know, these young students, like 19 years old, were like really into it. And they were very, very curious. And they knew all about the 2008 financial crisis because their lecturers in the economics classes had taught them about it. They could tell me all of the reasons why it failed, and they were all of the right reasons. In fact, one student told me about a bank. I won't mention the bank's name because I haven't done my own diligence on this yet. But he said that they're currently at a fractional reserve ratio of 40-1, which meant that they would only have to, their reserves would only have to be broken by about 3%. So 3% of the loans would have to go bad, and you'd have systemic failure. And if that bank failed, then lots of other banks would fail. So why I'm saying this is that the way to prevent this from being regulated is to get this to young people. Like, we need to be getting younger people, like under 18s, like people that are still in education, to be setting up their own coins or writing on the Bitcoin protocol itself, because then you're cutting off the regulators at the knees, right? Because they feed on students when they leave university. They go into government positions because it's a safe job. You get a nice, comfortable salary, and you know I don't want to swear, but Nassim Taleb calls it FU money, right? So this is money that you make so that you can say FU to the system and then leave it. right? What I say is just leave it straight away, or don't even put yourself in that position, because these are golden handcuffs, okay? You can't predict the future. And so you don't know what's going to happen. And I have a lot of my friends that I went to school with, I'm in my 30s now, that did go into banking, that did take the golden handcuffs, who then wish they hadn't. Because what they didn't anticipate was the recession that came along. And then, of course, they didn't have all the wealth to move to the Cayman Islands or whatever. So, yeah, it's a mug's game. I'm not particularly fazed by this article. I read it. I wasn't particularly, it didn't interest me. I don't find this at all threatening.
Christoph, Atlas.
Well, I think most likely the senator is getting the ball rolling on some new laws to increase executive branch powers. As a member of the banking committee, perhaps he was encouraged by some bankers to, loft the threat of a ban right at the time that GOX was collapsing, to try and pile on and break faith in the Bitcoin markets. Towards the end of the letter that he wrote to the various branches, he mentions systemic risk due to a deflationary death spiral. And I've been telling Bitcoiners for a long time that they can expect these kinds of complaints about systemic risk from the political class, and I think we can expect a bunch more of that in the future. He also called out Silk Road as an example of anonymity and difficulty with law enforcement, and of course that's a red herring. The Silk Road and several other websites have been shut down successfully. That said, I think that these markets are going to become more resilient. The anonymity technologies for cryptocurrencies are going to improve. And I think he's right to be concerned that cryptocurrencies will complicate the tax situation for the political class, especially income taxes. But the real question, the real pertinent question, is which side of that fight is the moral one?
Excellent clips from the World Crypto Network. And we've got lots more clips for you, but I wanted to go ahead and go to our live panelists and maybe just talk to them about what they think about the World Crypto Network and what it's been like being involved in Bitcoin over these last 3 years. So we'll just start with Blake and then Chris and then Vortex. Go ahead, Blake.
It's been a wild ride. There's been ups and downs, and there's been hacks, and then it's interesting to look at what we spent a lot of time doing in the early days versus what we spend a lot of time doing now. And watching that GOX footage just reminded me of how often I would have to talk to people in terms of explaining what the difference was between an organization or a company being hacked and the blockchain being fundamentally compromised. And that conversation took a long time with a lot of people, and you had to repeat yourself a lot. And I'm glad that we don't have to have that conversation as much anymore. But it also reminds me that that's still a conversation that is not widely known, and that needs to be had, and that people need to understand the security of the blockchain versus the security of somebody's private keys floating around wherever, or some company that royally gets bent over by not complying with almost any of the security best practices. That's not the same as the blockchain being compromised, and I'm so glad that I don't have to talk about that every day anymore.
We also used to hear all the time about the CEO of Bitcoin being arrested, and everyone always wants to talk to the boss. If everyone out there could give us a thumbs up and a share, we have about 150 live viewers. Thanks for joining us early on this Sunday morning. Chris Ellis, your thoughts of the last 3 years of the World Crypto Network?
Yeah, that was quite painful watching, Andreas, that video. I do remember it. I didn't even remember setting it up. It was so long ago. I looked so young back then. And yeah, it was really heartbreaking because he had a rough time back then. And I remember that was when I did that live event in London, and I invited him to be on, and then he emailed me and he said, I can't do it because of everything that happened with MtGox, because I know that he was trying to reassure people at the time that money was safe. And, like he said in the video, he knew as much as everyone else did, and Carpella's really screwed everyone. And fast forward to today, it wasn't so a matter of question of we'll find out in a few days. We still don't know years later what happened. And of course, so much has happened between now and then. I remind everyone that, everyone's watching tick by tick, minute by minute, the price going up and down. But look where we are now. Now, MtGox is solvent in dollar terms only, not in Bitcoin terms, to the point where, there may be an auction of the coins that were left over, to the point where, people can be liquidated at the strike price at the time that the exchange can go down, and people may get, 20 cents on the dollar if they're lucky. So how much has changed since now and then? I don't remember HunterCoin. I remember I had a pump recently. Yeah, but all those shit coins. Oh, fuck, I don't know. So yeah, that's what I remember. That's what kicks all this off.
It's offensive to me when you call them shit coins. I'm triggered.
Oh, is it? Are you triggered? Did I rustle your jimmies?
I have specific speech that I want to compel you to use. I'm going to use the government.
We'll create a safe
hear
space.
from them.
We'll create a safe space.
It's also worth remembering the difference between holding your own Bitcoin and holding Bitcoin in an exchange. We talk so much about the personal freedom of Bitcoin and paper wallets and hardware wallets. And then you see something like MtGox where you say, how much money did you have on the exchange? And part of it is traders, and traders got to trade. Although there were traders that would take their coins out at night and put them back in during the day. There are people that did those choices. But it's interesting to see how holding your own Bitcoins was important back then, and it's important now. Jeffrey Jones, The Vortex, your thoughts about World Crypto Network?
Yeah, it was definitely interesting to watch that old Gox video. We try to tell people all the time on the WCN, you know, if you do not hold the private keys, you do not hold your coins. And this is not going to be the last time that we're going to have to tell people about this. I'm sure Poloniex will give us another MtGox at some point, or one of these other exchanges. You know, they're going to continue to go down because the incentives are too great. You know, there's really not one single exchange that hasn't gotten hacked in some capacity. Have all of that coin stashed in one place. And, you know, even cold storage is not the solution. MtGox claimed to have cold storage, and that didn't help, because as soon as somebody can get access to the keys that has all of those funds, I mean, you know, somebody's going to get it. So people are a lot more careful these days and trying to do more solutions, like literally holding keys on different parts of the whole world, holding keys in this country and holding keys in this country, and we're trying all of these crazy things to try to help protect people's funds. But at the end of the day, people, all you need to do is remove your funds from exchanges. Now, of course, for day traders and stuff like that, that's not going to be an option. But even traders out there, a lot of smart traders keep the vast majority of their coins off the exchange. Like they only keep enough for trading, and so anything that's on an exchange, you have to be prepared to lose. So of WCN have been kind of, you know, just been crazy, just as crazy as Bitcoin, right? Because this is what we follow. So I think that it's been absolutely amazing to be a part of both Bitcoin and the WCN. I think that we have a very unique channel here with very unique viewpoints, and everybody on the WCN, from my point of view and opinion, has always been the utmost honest, has the utmost integrity. We don't advertise coins around here. We don't we don't advertise crap coins. We don't freaking we try to say our honest. If we believe a product is not going to be good in the long term, we will tell you about it. You know, to this day, a lot of us on the WCN don't think that Ethereum is going to be viable long term and things like that. But yet, of course, the price just keeps going up, and we know how this movie ends. So very, very, very fun. And yeah, I've only been a part of WCN for the past couple of years. So, you know, those time I actually started the Bitcoin news show during 2015, I think it was, or maybe 2016. Basically, it was the downturn for Bitcoin. There wasn't really any Bitcoin content. Nobody was really creating content. In fact, even Thomas, I think even you skipped a few weeks there of the Bitcoin group, just because there was no interest. Nobody cared. Bitcoin like pretty much fell off of everybody's radar during that 2-year down and sideways. So at this point now, we have come full circle. We are just exploding. Our views are exploding. Our viewers are exploding. The market cap is exploding. We're over $110 billion market cap. So just amazing stuff. And I couldn't be more excited to see where everything is going.
Sounds very explosive. I was going to ask, have you seen that? I think it was an Excelian tweet where he has the picture of the like a gates being sieged with fire and by armies and stuff like that. And he's like, typical day for an exchange. I think that's a pretty, funny and accurate, a picture's worth 1,000 words. But I don't think that every exchange has been hacked. I mean, there's definitely challenges in securing an exchange, but multi-signature in cold storage, if done correctly, should be superior to encrypted passwords in a normal style organization, because hashing versus encryption in terms of passwords and not being able to go and just grab something out of a file that you've been given access to, it should be a little bit more secure, which is, why kind of I was so critical of BitPay when they got hacked. So we have a kind of a new standard here. And yes, take your keys off. I completely agree with what Vortex was saying, but also don't give these companies a pass and just assume that everybody gets hacked, because that's not good either.
When we launched the World Crypto Network all those years ago, first my brother and I came up with a name over a discussion in our kitchen, going back and forth. We liked the idea of World Bitcoin Network, but that was of course already taken by James D'Angelo and his excellent Bitcoin Blackboard videos, which you can still check out on the internet today. We were also inspired by our heroes from the movie Anchorman 2 and their attempts to create a 24/7, 365 cable news network. And that's kind of what we wanted to do. Of course, we couldn't go 24/7, 365 all by ourselves. We needed help and we needed shows. And that's why the World Crypto Network launched with shows. At one point, we had one show a day, 7 shows a week. And here are a few of those shows, in case you've forgotten.
This week in cryptos. So from today onwards, we are having a new format for this recap of the week, beginning on the 28th of March to the 3rd of April. Let us begin. Top story. CEO of Bitcoin bans China. Following rumors of China's plan to ban bank transfers to Bitcoin exchanges, the CEO of Bitcoin has decided to ban China. As of the 8th of April, Bitcoin transfers to and from the glorious People's Republic of China Limited will no longer be supported by the Bitcoin network. What the fuck is this shit? Who the hell wrote this article? Huh? Oh.
Top story. We also had altcoins like mad PotCoins.
Good morning, PotCoins. Today is Sunday, 4 May 2014. We are currently on block 220330 of the Pot chain. Mad PotCoins is now part of the World Crypto Network. I will be doing one show each week, and my goal is to improve each week. I look forward to viewer suggestions for improvements, and I'll do as much as I can, but keep in mind that I have no budget. However, viewers like you can change that. Donation addresses are in the description below and QR codes at the end of the video. The BitsCoins shop accepts PotCoin. The Brazilian-based online retailer now accepts multiple altcoins, including PotCoin. You can buy a variety of products ranging from watches, pipes, minor Bitcoin, phones, perfumes, eyeglasses, shoes, men's clothes, and women. There you have it. You can now buy women with PotCoins.
Funny.
What is that shit?
The 14th, and you got forked. And
we got dark news with
to
Christoph
do what you want
Atlas.
to at that point. So make sure that you are up to date with your Darkcoin software.
Is this Dash?
This is very exciting to me. This is a very
Dark news, Darkcoin Dash.
talk about blind mixing and ring signatures. So blind mixing is this term that, as far as I know, I invented it. Maybe someone else has also independently invented it. But to me, it's a way of, it's a mixing technology where people are able to mix their coins together, but none of the participants need to know any of the relationship between the starting address and the ending address. You know, the idea is you're going to have some Bitcoins or some Darkcoins or some whatever at a starting address. They'll go through a mixing process and then it will end up at some destination address. And the purpose of mixing is so that no one knows the relationship between those two. But a lot of the mixing technologies that have been deployed in the last few years have relied on some trusted third party knowing that relationship. This is still the case for Darkcoin right now. They have these master nodes that are capable of orchestrating the DarkSend operations. And at the moment, they do need to know that relationship between the initial address and the destination address. But Darkcoin just recently announced that in the next version of DarkSend, version 2, they will be deploying. So this is from May 12th, so just a few days ago. So I think this is relatively new news, but they will be implementing a new technology called ring signatures.
We also had Bitcoin Talk Show. Here's one of our famous book introductions.
Oh, hi. I didn't see you there. I didn't notice you'd come in. Welcome to Bitcoin Talk Show. It's Wednesday. This might be the 11th, maybe the 12th time we've done this, but we're here all alone today, so go ahead and call in if you'd like at 1-516-900-4WCN. That's.
We also had Midas Marty telling us about how to spread Bitcoin.
Hi there, this is Marty Melrose, also known as Midas Marty, and today is going to be a short show, and I'm going to give you a tip. So this morning I was on my, I'm part of the Conscious Business Coalition, and they have a Conscious Business Academy. And today we were talking about marketing, and specifically marketing to your email list and having opt-in pages and things like that, and encouraging people to sign up for your email list. A lot of times what companies will do is they will give a gift in order for, you know, as an exchange for somebody to sign up with their email list.
And who could forget Bitcoin Rush?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Bitcoin Rush episode number 7. First, I'd like to thank the following public key addresses for their generous donation. Thank you very much for supporting Bitcoin Rush. Your donation will be used wisely. What are instant transactions? Instant transactions means no waiting for checks to clear, no chargebacks, no account freezes, no international wire transfer fee, no fees of any kind, no minimum balance, no maximum balance, worldwide access, always open, no waiting for business hours to make transactions, no waiting for an account to be approved before transacting. Open an account in a few seconds, as easy as email. No bank account needed. Extremely poor people can use it. Extreme wealthy people can use it too. No printing press. No hyperinflation. No debt limit votes. No bank bailouts. Completely voluntary. This sounds like the best payment system in the world.
Who could not agree with that? We also had news with Tatiana Moroz about her coin.
When I have a party, when I have the concert, those things give it value because you would want that stuff anyway. So it's like all of a sudden you start thinking now, even like, I don't know, I just think that there's so many cool ways that you could think of it and not just limit it to the mining being the only way of providing that value. I think that's just the first step of many. I don't know where those steps are leading, but it's really fun to watch.
I definitely think that.
And Megan Lords with Crypto Convos.
Hello and welcome to episode 13 of Crypto Convos. I'm your host, MK Lords, and joining me today is the always interesting Brian Sovryn from Sovryn Tech. We're going to be talking about a bunch of different things today, so it should be really exciting. I'm a big fan of his podcast. Everyone should check it out. It's really, really awesome. So how are you doing today, Brian?
Doing great, and to say always interesting, that's might be the nicest thing I've ever heard said about me, so thank you. I usually get like always inflammatory, or I get always insane, always crazy, something like that. So interesting, that's good. I'll take it.
Always interesting is good. And how about those clips? Another walk down memory lane there. Blake, what'd you think of all the fun shows we used to have on the World Crypto Network?
It was a grab bag. You could go into that grab bag and you could come out with this, or you could come out with that, all kinds and sorts of things. I've forgotten about the puppet show. It's actually funnier than I remember. Like, he's all like, oh, it's, you know, April Fools and stuff. But I don't know. I think that a big part of kind of the message of the World Crypto Network and about digital storage of value evangelism in general is to try to get people to go out there and to, you know, have your own point of view, do your own research, make your own roadshow, try to participate as much as you can, because as this stuff gets adopted more and more, which it will, I mean, everything else is categorically inferior if it's fiat, we're going to need more and more and more spokespeople. And I think that it makes me feel happy to go back and to watch the people that have done that. And I hope they continue to do it. And I hope that that motivates more people to jump into the space. Seeing, you know, other projects start out rough and unpolished and then go into being, you know, even minimally successful, I think it's really motivating. So that's how I was feeling watching it.
We've had a lot of interesting people on the network, and it's great for everyone to get involved, and it's so voluntary with Bitcoin. There's no Bitcoin CEO, there's no Bitcoin organization to advertise for itself. So we felt that we all had to kind of jump in and do our part, and everyone promoted what they liked. Chris Ellis, what'd you think of the old shows?
Well, the people with the funny voices?
We need more of those. People should sign up. I think we could get
Remember
some.
this?
Oh, look at this.
Hey, look what I found in the closet. Do you remember these?
When I was gone at Burning Man, Chris hosted the Bitcoin group, but he did it not just as Chris, but as Mad Bitcoin.
As the British Mad Bitcoins, because I can't do an American accent. Yeah. So I dug that out, dug out the old, and I had the old goggles as well. Yeah, I did all the get up. Did it all. Yeah, I remember the good old days, the bad old days. But we've got a new range of shitcoins now. It's all about no transaction fees. It's all about smart contract, ICOs. And since the DAO, the new scam on the street is about getting the plebs into the ICOs and longing the fuck out of the platform. You know, because what happened with the DAO is that I think a lot of VIP money, very important money, Vim for sure, you know, they went like full retard into the DAO, nearly lost their, you know, all their skin. And they were like, right, we need to they got bailed out. And they were like, right, what do we do this time? Well, this time what we do is we build this ERC20 token, and we get all the plebs to like scramble for like the gold. But we sell them the shovels and spades, right? We'll stay on the platform, long the fuck out of Ethereum, and we'll just like sell it into the strength. They'll be scrambling for the Ethereum because you need the Ethereum to buy the tokens, right? To buy all the gold. We'll just sell them the shovels and spades, right? Shovels and spades being the Ethereum. So we'll be longing the fuck out of Ethereum from the bottom, like when it dumped after the DAO, it was selling off, selling off, selling off. So they're like longing the fuck out of it as it's selling off, knowing full well they're going to be releasing this thing, knowing full well Bancor and the bats, you know, all of this stuff, which is like really precarious, by the way, legally. All these tokens are like super shaky ground legally, because now all these exchanges that are listing them are getting legal advice telling them, you know what, these aren't like cryptocurrencies, right? If the developer that founded the cryptocurrency leaves, the cryptocurrency still remains, right? Because there are miners and there are nodes, like another, you know, developer can jump on board. But it's not the same with an ICO, right? If the founders leave, the money leaves with them. And the investors, they get screwed over. They run to the SEC or Daddy, whoever it is in the EU, and they say, hey, I got screwed over. And if you don't have a platform to support the ICO, really the only reason why you bought it was to speculate on the effort of another person to make a profit. And then you're in violation of something called the Howey test, which basically means that it's a security. And so you're on really shaky ground. So if you're running an exchange and you're providing liquidity for this ICO, you know, you're also on shaky ground. So this isn't like cryptocurrency now when you're doing these ICOs. So the safest thing for you to do if you're Vim, if you're very important money, is just to buy the Ethereum and actually let the plebs take all the liability. Let the plebs scramble for the token sales. Let them get like I know one person, it was on Whalepool chat, and he said, oh, a mate of mine sent me $1 million in Ethereum to get in on this token sale, and now it's trapped on the blockchain. Can't move it because it's all ground to a halt. Because what was happening was, you know, one ICO token sale would finish, and then a fucking another one would set up. And so, you know, the fucking Ethereum network would just be clogged for days and days, and the exchanges would just run from announcement to announcement. Now, you look back at all through these videos, and you look back to HunterCoin, you look back at all these, you know, barbecue coin, all this, and we used to think, oh, you know, this was the wild, wild west. You know, look at it now. It's got 10 times worse. You know, now all the big money's coming in. Back then it was like, fuck the banks. Now it's like, hey, let's get money from the banks.
Well, it's gotten so much worse too, because it's not like people are trying to spin up a new protocol which can be independently, you know, run. It's like, we're going to have a completely top-down, in control, e-gold-esque, but even worse, and we're going to call it a cryptocurrency. And it's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, this is so far removed from the most basic levels of understanding of what we're doing here that it's almost infuriating to me. You know what I mean? Like,
and we're all going to run it. We're all going to run over the same platform with huge scaling flaws. No problem. No problems.
And it really is all about the money. Back then you had projects like Litecoin and Feathercoin where they're actually testing out the technology and thinking, can we do this? Can we make a coin? Now it's, can we make $1 million with our coin and our early pre-mine and other such things?
Right. Okay, that's a good point. Let me go into that a bit more. Right. So that was the point of like projects like Litecoin and Feathercoin. There was definitely obviously people were trying to make money out of them, make no mistake about it. But it was more about a maker culture of like hobbyists who had graphics cards, who like wanted to build stuff, and there were people that were coming into the forums like, I want to make an SMS app for like sending money, right? And sure, there was an element of, you know, making money and speculation, but not like millions of dollars. Like somebody might have made a couple of grand here and there, but there was no like, you know, pure speculation greed. Like today, you're on Whalepool or like one of these, you know, Telegram chat things, and people are making hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, right? It's not unusual to hear these kinds of orders of magnitude being sloshed around. Whereas back then, you know, someone put a couple of $100 and they might have made, you know, a couple of $1,000, but mostly it was people just saying, hey, I've got an idea for a business idea, like let's say, and they wanted to like raise some money, you know, maybe like the dodgiest it would get would be cloud mining. Someone would come in and they'd write, I've got some hashing power. Does someone want to put some money? They'd run off with the money, right? That would be the worst that would happen. And people would get upset and butthurt and like, you know, stuff. But actually, you know, there was some really cool stuff. Like there was obviously with Feathercoin, we actually had an eBay thing, right, that Bushstar set up, and that worked, and people sold stuff. I sold my iPad on there and stuff like that. It was really good fun. And a couple of other people said we had the SMS thing I mentioned, and what else do we do?
Well, Feathercoin developed tipping culture, right? Before Dogecoin, Feathercoin was all
Dogecoin
in small amounts. So
yeah, and we had an open source point of sale. Somebody made a Prince 3D printable Raspberry Pi point of sale, open source. So there were all these like really, really cool projects. They didn't get the attention because we didn't have the contacts at CoinDesk in any way. You sort of like have to like, you know, there's like a quid pro quo thing to get an article in there and stuff like that. So it was like, yeah, you didn't get the publicity, but stuff was going on. And then at Litecoin as well, like they were working with the Bitcoin developers, and there was like a sort of like Litecoin was like the backup network in case everything goes wrong, like the nuclear option with Bitcoin, which is now actually proving to be useful. But whereas now I just feel like these ICOs really aren't delivering anything useful. Like show me a dApp on Ethereum that actually provides utility.
I think everyone's waiting for Augur, but we'll just have to wait and see. Jeffrey
What's
Jones,
that, sports betting?
Augur, it's a prediction market, so betting on everything. So don't limit it to sports.
Basically sports betting.
Well, it's like it's supposed to be swarm intelligence. Like, yes, I think that's the use case, but it does have a more of an actual swarm intelligence like aim to it. Even if it's not the most tenable or defensible actual implementation, they do talk a lot about things that do have weight in the swarm intelligence and research fields and stuff like that. And Joey is interested in that. I think that they could have gone about the infrastructure of their project differently. I think they should have talked to Eris and Preston Byrne very, very early on to try to see if they could fork out their value proposition, and they didn't do that, which I was disappointed by. But we'll just have to see how that goes eventually.
Let's go to Jeffrey Jones. Your thoughts on the old shows and everything we've discussed.
Yeah, it's really interesting for me as well because, like I said, I didn't come in till 2015, 2016 to the WCN. So I really did not know. Only thing I've ever watched was the Bitcoin group, Thomas, with you guys. I mean, I found that show so informative when you guys were first, when I first discovered that. I mean, back in 2014 and 2015 is when I first started watching that, and I found it absolutely informative. Some of the most intelligent people and speaking about all the current events, and I loved it so much that I was so sad that when that kind of thing went away for the most part, that I had to create my own show. I mean, that's you, Thomas. The Bitcoin group is the inspiration for me creating the Bitcoin News Show. Like I said, I just felt that there wasn't enough content out there. There wasn't enough people basically correcting the mainstream media. Because even to this day, the mainstream media is horrible on reporting about crypto. And so, it's just really bad. It hasn't gotten any better at all whatsoever in the mainstream media. But the World Crypto Network, I mean, I think we've continued to improve, continued to add new shows, continued to add new guests, continued to add new people, and we continue to tell the truth. We bring the truth to the people, and that's, to me, the most important thing that I can think of to do. So that's really great. And to echo what Chris and Blake were saying, Ethereum, it's like, look, people were talking about dApps and decentralized autonomous organizations before Ethereum. Okay, they were actually talking about doing this stuff before Ethereum. This stuff was theorized and stuff with Bitcoin long before Ethereum was coming out. And now, anytime anybody refers to dApps, right, decentralized apps or decentralized autonomous organizations, we think Ethereum, which to me is absolutely ludicrous, because to this day, in my opinion, there's not one single useful dApp on Ethereum. Show me one useful dApp that I actually can go out and use and have a community of people using with me. There's just not. And look, the potential for Ethereum is great. The potential for Bitcoin is great. The potential is there for a lot of these coins. But right now, to me, the only blockchain that's doing anything useful and has been doing anything useful is Bitcoin. And you can call us a maximalist and things like that, but that's just how I see it. As I've said many times on my show and on my Twitter feed, I do believe that all the altcoins, including Ethereum, are merely an extension of Bitcoin. They are Bitcoin. And so, especially since a lot of these things share Bitcoin source code. But yeah, and so it's just really great. I'm just really proud to be a part of the WCN and really proud to people, and just want to thank everybody here. Thomas, Blake, Chris, you guys have done such amazing work over the years, and have been an absolute amazing inspiration for people like myself.
It's very simple, Vortex. You don't have to be a Bitcoin maximalist. Just as Swapman says, Bitcoin supremacist. You just think Bitcoin is the best one. And you don't have to be a maximalist. You just say, out of all the cryptocurrencies, you just think Bitcoin is the best one. It's got the network effect. I think the easiest attack vector against Ethereum right now is just keep releasing ICOs. Just keep doing it, and the network will just grind to a halt, and no one will be able to use it for anything.
Even the ICOs themselves.
That's right.
Exactly.
Bitcoin supremacist.
Yeah, nobody really wants to be called a supremacist, though, Chris, unfortunately. It has a very, very negative connotation. As much as I do agree with the idea. I like Bitcoin, but no, I'm not going to touch that word with a 10.
I'm a Bitcoin supremacist. I am an altcoin eugenicist. We are going.
We're falling down the lines. Yes, we're falling down some very sad lines. But thanks so much, Vortex, for the kind words about the Bitcoin group. We really like doing it. It's a fun show. We're almost to about our 150th episode. But let's go back, and I just tried to get some random clips here, so I can't justify these are going to be great or anything. But let's look back at the Bitcoin group, episode number 40, just randomly chosen.
The Bitcoin group, the American original. For over the last 10 seconds, the sharpest Satoshis, the best Bitcoins, the hardest cryptocurrency talk. We'd like to welcome our panelists. Chris Ellis from World Crypto Network.
Hello.
Megan Lords from Bitcoin Not Bombs.
Thanks for having me.
Christoph Atlas from Anonymous Bitcoin Book.
Good to be here.
Will Pangman from Join to Peaky.
Hi, everybody.
And I'm Thomas Hunt from Mad Bitcoins. Moving on to issue 1. New York.
Let's see if we can skip ahead to the Coinye part.
Coinye.
From confiscation is a fool's errand.
Yeah, and to add on to Will's point, like he said, this happened with Bernard von Nothaus and a bunch of people who've tried to start their own alternative currencies that are backed by silver or gold. All it takes is them finding out where you're holding your silver or gold and confiscating it. And then there's also the trust issues. You have to trust this third party to be doing their books correctly and being honest with you that this is actually backed by what they say it's backed by and that they're able to even secure it. So Bitcoin solves a lot of these problems, and this is a step backwards to do that. And I understand why some people would want that. I mean, I understand, you know, where a lot of these people are coming from. I mean, I work at a brokerage firm, but whenever I try to talk to someone about Bitcoin who are already very much into gold and silver, you get these same kind of, you know, arguments and stuff like that. So I understand it's very hard for them to shift their mindset. It's very, very difficult. So I understand where they're coming from, but Bitcoin has solved a lot of these problems so far as far as trust and then having a physical location where something can be confiscated. So I view it as a step backwards.
Exactly.
If you're wondering, Coinye was an altcoin that kind of made fun of Kanye West that he sued out of existence. Here's a quick clip from Theo's transmission. See if I can find some Theo, but there's no Theo in here. Let's see.
Is he going to be hammered?
So, as you notice, we're short. So we have a minus 0.3 because that means we went short. We sold 0.3. This is the price we went short at, 241 and 10 cents. Liquidation price means we would lose this whole position, this whole 0.03, or what we put into it, if the Bitcoin price went to 464, which is pretty high considering the price now.
We really have to thank Theo, because while I was working at BTC Jam and later at Purse, Theo stepped up and created the transmission show and created many short videos on the World Crypto Network. Check them out in our history, and check out Theo Goodman's YouTube channel. We've also got this classic of Chris Before Coffee from September 10th, 2014. Let's see what's going on with Chris Ellis.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Chris Before Coffee. Today's show comes to you sponsored by Unsystem. And we are here at the Bitcoin Squad. I just thought I'd start off with a Taylor Swift quote because I just love what she's doing at the moment. Predicting doom from the technology of tomorrow ignores the nightmare of technology today. Profound stuff. Fucking love it. So, Open Bazaar, we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about dark markets. But most importantly of all, you need to start sending your Bitcoins to this Bitcoin address, which is the multi-sig wallet for Unsystem. I'm joined here by Amir Taki. We were here last night, if you were lucky enough.
Also, if you donate to the multi-sig, because it's public and we make all the expenses public, you have 100% accountability, and also it's not controlled by like one person, but a group of people, and we have all the expenses that we use the money for. So, and we make the money go really far, like
all those perks. I've seen where all the money goes.
To the foundation, to all expenses paid, flights abroad, fancy hotels.
all right. So before we get,
there's Chris, joined by Amir Taki and Julia Toransky. Also looks like Pi Rebel and Jamie Nelson down below. Just more examples of the great kind of content that you can see here in the World Crypto Network.
The same thing.
And I'm afraid we
I don't have money for new clothes.
Chris's wardrobe that he's wearing the same shirt he was wearing in 2014.
I don't have money for new clothes. That's it.
We need to send you to Ross Dress for Less and get you hooked up, man. But what do you think, Chris? You just saw the video there of yourself. I remember you did some exciting interviews in England for a while. You were living in a I forget what they call it, a squat. Yes, it was a hippie commune and eating out of garbage bins. What else was going on, Chris, during the wild days of Chris's adventures?
Out in the Bitcoin squat, and then went down to Runnymede, where the Magna Carta is written. Yeah, it was cool. Like Peter Todd was there for a while, and that's when I did the undercover recording of the BBC interview they did with Peter Todd, and they tried to make Peter Todd like out to be a terrorist sympathizer, and that got quite a lot of people like that. And but I knew that they were trying to spring a trap. They were there for 2 days, and when they were interviewing Amir on day one, I could tell by the questions they were asking Amir, because the thing is, like, the BBC journalist, she was being really, like, I didn't like her. I could tell that I I know when people are lying. Like, I've had this disease my whole life. I know when someone's lying. I know a bullshitter. I can smell it from like 1 part in a million. And
stinks like bullshit.
And yeah, I can smell it on someone. And it's been a curse and something of a gift as well. But what it means is that when I'm around other people, like I find it difficult to flat share. I find it difficult to be in a job. I can't really hold a job for very long, because if someone's lying in my sphere, in my peer group, and obviously they find it uncomfortable to be around me. Yeah, they can tell that I know that they're full of shit, and then there's friction. And so I could tell what she was up to. But Amir thought that he was going to get some publicity for Dark Wallet. Yeah, he thought, oh, this is great, I'm going to get to be on the BBC. But I knew what she was doing. And so on the second day, well, I did some bunch of recordings, and I've got this habit of like, getting my phone out and just like hitting record and just leaving my phone on the table, right, like that. And no one knows, right? I just left it recording. So I got the best recording on the second day, and I just left it on the table, and I was just left it there, and no one knew. And I got the clearest recording on the second day, where Peter Todd was just like being interviewed. And I could tell by the way they were doing the questions. I went around the room and I just said like to Drac, and I said to Peter Todd, this is a setup. Like, I know they're being nice to us and everything, but I can tell we are being set up. We are being made to look like they're hanging out in their life, and we're having debate, and it looks like it's like a free-flowing debate about the morals and the ethics of Bitcoin, and whether or not it can be used for good and for bad, and what the ethics are of like coders, and should coders be coding things that could be used for bad people and for good people. But I think the way they're going to spin this is they're going to spin it in a way, they're going to cut it. They're asking you leading questions about, so what would you make of it if you're writing this code? What do you think about terrorists using this? Like, would you try to code this in a way that could stop terrorists from using it? And then like Peter Todd would say, well, like, nothing I can do about that. Like, it's like I'm writing a novel, and if, a crime novel, for example, and, they could glean out of that, like how to murder someone. I mean, as a novelist, nothing much I can do about that, right? And so they're trying to steer it in a way that he's oblivious to crime, or somehow he's trying to facilitate the crime, right? And so I'm going up to them saying, like, I think you're being set up. I think they're trying to spin this to make you look like you're a party to terrorism, that you're actually trying to do this thing. So I recorded the whole thing, and at the very end of the recording, the producer says, we're trying to make you look bad, like in this thing. He just says, like, we're all laughing and everyone, and then someone criticizes the BBC, like one of the other members of the squad that had nothing to do with the interviews. And as a retaliation, just an off-the-cuff remark, the BBC producer says, so now we're trying to like spin this back on you. Just as an off-the-cuff remark. No one really makes anything of it. It's just one of those, things. No one says anything. And at the very end of the recording, you just catch him saying that. And when the piece came out, most of the time, the BBC clicked show is put on YouTube. And they've never taken it down before off of YouTube, because it's just one of these shows, gets syndicated over the world. I guess they don't really care that it goes on YouTube. It's just one of these things that gets tagged on the BBC World Network. And for the first time ever, because it was controversial and because so many people complained about it, because what they did is they showed one technical person, one sort of developer that was doing a good thing with technology, and then they showed Amir Taki and Peter Todd as doing a bad thing with technology. And they juxtaposed the two to say, look, this one developer was doing good things with journalism, and he's doing very ethical things to help people. And it was all about Russia and how he was exposing Russia and, good things. And here's Amir Taki and Dark Wallet and Booga Booga. Look, it's helping, fund terrorism. And so I just released the recording on the World Crypto Network that just exposed it. And of course, you got this throwaway comment by the BBC producer at the very end that just sort of shows that what he was doing was framing the narrative. He was going in with the conclusion pre-written. The story was already done. It didn't matter what they'd said. He was already trying to steer and push the content in a certain direction. He wasn't there to learn anything. It was like, right, we need to get them to say this. Just keep asking them questions along these lines. Cut out everything else. Cut out the nuance, concision. Like, we don't have time for all the nuance.
It was time constraint based only.
Yeah,
that's because they didn't have the time, and so they put the most level-handed,
they have the way that you don't understand, right? So when you get asked to do an interview for a news show, you'll often get an email that will say, you will say this, you will say that, you will say this, because they don't have time for you So like when you watch, think about when next time you watch a 24-hour news or you watch a bulletin like at 6 o'clock, 11 o'clock show, think about the time that they've spent with that person. If you've ever been interviewed for a news broadcast, they'll spend like 20, 30 minutes with you, maybe longer. And think about how much actually gets put into it. Probably like 8 seconds, right? Concision.
Only the gotchas. They got all the gotchas edited.
Gotchas, yeah. It's just the sound bites, right? So very little of what you said gets put in. And when they email you, it will say things literally like, you will say this, because they don't have time for you to and ah, right? It's not like, oh, well, yeah, on the one hand this and on the other hand that. They don't have time for this equivocation.
And they've got ads to play. They've got 30-second spots to get in there.
Yeah.
You know? We'll be right back.
So what they do in editorial meetings, just so you know, because I've been in these things in my previous life, is that they will say, right, we've got this agenda, right? What's the agenda? What's the editorial? The editorial is that, you know, these dark wallet people, well, we already did a positive show about them previously on BBC Click. So now we've got to do the other side. We've got to keep it balanced. That means we have to do one positive piece, one negative piece to balance it out. So now the negative piece has to be that they're funding terrorism because a document showed up online that said that ISIS was using dark wallet. It was bullshit. I mean, if I didn't know any better, I'd say Amir even like released that himself just to get the publicity around it. I don't know. I'm just saying that. I don't know if that's true or not.
Just because the theory happens to fit the facts, you know.
I mean, anyone could have fucking uploaded that, but obviously dark wallet wasn't even working. Like, so the idea that ISIS were using it, there wasn't enough liquidity at Bitcoin at the time. They were getting their money from fucking Saudi Arabia. They didn't fucking need Bitcoin. Like, do you know what I mean? They had other.
And they posted it in English too. It was like an English post. Yeah.
Yeah, it was an English post. It wasn't in like it wasn't in the right language. Like anyone could have just posted that shit up there, right? And so obviously they were sat around like, well, how should we do this? Well, we've got this like coder who's working for this organization called Bellingcat, and he's doing this like cool stuff with journalism that's making Russia look bad. And right now the BBC are having this wrangle with Russia Today, which is this propaganda network for Putin. So I guess we could like give Russia Today a good like hammering with that. So we'll make Bellingcat look good. We'll make Amir look bad. And we'll just like go in and do this hit piece. And I'm like, no, fuck off. That's just really bad journalism. So I just like recorded it. I'm like, whatever, I don't care. Now, the reason I'm mentioning this now, sorry for the ramble, but it turns out that Amir then got arrested because he went out to Syria and started fighting. He claims he was fighting against ISIS. But the thing is, you can't just like go to Syria, right? As a British national. Because when you come back, the police are just going to like, you know, interrogate you. So he's now like under house arrest allegedly. I don't know if he still is or if he's been let go, because he claimed the police don't know if he was fighting against them or fighting for them. And I don't know if my recording was used or if I got him into trouble somehow. I hope I didn't. But I was never told. I only found out like everybody else. And then Peter Todd unfollowed me and so did Julia. And I don't know if they are angry at me for recording it. I wasn't like, Peter Todd was all in favor of it. I played the record. I sent him the copy of the recording before I released it. He signed off on it. He said that he was cool with it being released. So anyway, I really hope that I didn't get Amir into any trouble over that. And yeah, I really hope that he's okay, because I don't believe that he would ever, you know, be involved with ISIS. That would go against everything that he's ever said and, you know, publicly. But
I would say that no one can go to Syria except Amir Taki, who went to Syria. But we are joined by Theo Goodman. As I was just mentioning, during the big downtime when I told everyone famously on Mad Bitcoins, I said, Bitcoin price is going down, everyone should get jobs. And I meant me too, because I got a job at BTC Jam and I got a job at Purse, and I was very busy trying to promote these Bitcoin companies and do good by them. And at that time, unfortunately, I couldn't do the Bitcoin group and I couldn't do the World Crypto Network. So the hammer fell to Theo. And Theo started the transmission show, did some interviews, and talked about trading. And we're fortunate enough to be joined by Theo today. How's it going, Theo?
I'm doing well, thanks. Yeah, it's true. Greetings. Yeah, there was a time when, you know, well, that it kind of also has to do with the price. You can see it in Bitcoin. I mean, people that haven't been around for after the price goes down by, I don't know how many percent or whatever, you know, $1,000, you know, 1,000 to 200, don't really know what that does to people that were totally motivated and feeling like, oh yeah, it's the best. Yeah, we're gonna go to the moon. You know what I mean? And then a few months later, they're like, shit, it's not going to the moon. What am I gonna do? And then yeah, people get less motivated, and you see what happens. It doesn't mean all those people are not around necessarily, but people became less active. Now, if you do a show and you put like blockchain something and you put it on YouTube, you probably get automatically X amount of views. Probably with very little effort, you get 200 or something, and you did nothing. And I think back then you probably got 20. You know, it was really a lot smaller and just, you know, a lot less going on, but that's okay. It wasn't only me. We still had people around, you know, doing stuff. Chris was doing some stuff. I don't even know what year that was. The video with the squat, was that 2014 or 2015? I get mixed up.
I think it was 14.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. I guess 2015 was kind of like the cold winter, the first 6 months, you know, and then it's just like a story, and then, you know, stuff happens. And then I kept on doing my show, and then let's see what happened. Then we had Vortex hooked up with me on Blab. Back then it was Blab, and he got him doing his show, and I was on, I don't know, the first 2 maybe or so, kind of helping him get started. And then now he's got like a real big popular show. And then I don't know, there were a few other people that came, and maybe they're doing shows now, maybe not. But that's cool. That's how it is. And we kept
and certainly we showed some clips from our famous weekend shows, Mad, PotCoins, and This Week in Crypto. We all remember the puppet. That guy's actually from Indonesia. A really fascinating guy.
The puppet guy. Whatever happened to him? Whatever happened to the puppet guy?
He built a new studio, and then he just started doing other puppets and other graphics. He's a great video editor. He does things like he'll put the glow onto a lightsaber, stuff I wish I could do when I was a kid. And him and his friends running around shooting guns that shoot lasers. And he's got a lot of great videos. Check him out at Tastylicious Studio. He's still on YouTube making stuff. He just hasn't done the puppet in a while.
That sounds violent. I'm pretty triggered by all of what you just said. I hope that the puppets don't.
He's very clearly influenced by Quentin Tarantino movies and Mortal Kombat type of stuff. It's interesting stuff to check out.
I wanted to give a shout out to to everybody, but like especially to Theo and to Vortex for putting in work when the price was down, because it's like, yeah, but like there's a famous quote, and I have no idea where it's from because I can't think right now, but like during downtimes is when the work is, and people that didn't sell their Bitcoin during the downtime and that worked in order to be able to extend their horizon and to keep it, like that's an honorable thing. It might sound like a small thing, but like these are the type of people that you should respect, and I think that doesn't get said a whole lot.
It is, and we appreciate their work. And I've been searching through our archives to find a few more clips because I'm finding them much more interesting than I thought they would. I think Chris felt the same.
We had. I remember we had back before, well before, I think probably 6 months or longer before Bitcoin XT was out. We had a discussion about block size limit on World Crypto Network. I don't think Chris was on there, Drac was on there, and I had Genesis Mining, 1 or 2 guys from there, and they were totally on the other side. Back and get that. It's really interesting to watch. There was no Bitcoin XT, there was no Classic, there was nothing like that. It was still just a discussion about. It was already a discussion about side chains and block size limit, but there was no. There were not these hard sides like now. So it's kind of hard for people maybe to kind of get, of course, Hearn was still on the developing. Gavin was still, was more on the core team back then. But it's interesting just to go back conversations that were had back then and just think of, and just to see what's going on right now with the discussions, how it's developed, or if it's just the same topic, the same thing again and again and again, rehashed.
Well, I think that harkens back to something Chris and I were talking about earlier, how it used to be more about technology and people were just developing things. Like we talked about the block size just as an issue, not as like a existential be all threat where you have to be on this side or that side. And
I feel like that changed very, very shortly after what Thea was talking about. When Mike Hearn left, I went onto the David Seaman Hour with Amanda B. Johnson before she went off onto Dash, and they were talking about, how the problems that Mike Hearn brought up were just, nonsensical. And I was like, well, you want to steel man your opponent. You don't want to straw man them, because that's, any asshole can do that. So you steel man the argument of your opponent, try to make it as strong as you can so that when you attack it and when you dismember it, it actually means something. And we talked about SegWit and the other categorically inferior options in terms of moving forward, and like that hasn't changed with the Hearn leaving and with all the new versions that are trying to. I mean, like this has been something that has been established a long time ago. And David Seaman deleted that video with all that great information after we had that debate, because it was not supportive enough of his desires for Ethereum to become the one chain. So I think that it's tough to repeat constantly the things that you feel like have already been said or done. But I think that it's interesting that Theo points out rightfully that these conversations have already been had. And I almost wonder if we need to like cut them up and make ads or like shows out of them and try to get them out more, or if it's enough that they just exist. And it's hard to know, how much you need to push home this information. How much is it being politicized? How much should we push back with trying to get the actual scientific information out there? And it's a good question. It's an interesting line to walk.
I do think we've created a historic and valuable archive. And as you see now, YouTube is starting to automatically add captions to the videos, and then they'll automatically translate them to other languages. And it's not 100% accurate, but it is incredible. And I do hope that researchers in the future will use these videos and run through the captions and find interesting things and bring them out. Unfortunately, we have to say goodbye to Jeffrey Jones, the Vortex. He's got to get ready for the Bitcoin News Show, which is coming up right here on the World Crypto Network in 30 minutes. Jeff, what's going on Bitcoin News today?
Yeah, pretty excited about today's show. We're going to have Mr. Charlie Shrem from all sorts of different things. Of course, he's currently working at the Jax wallet, but we're gonna have Charlie Shrem on. We're gonna have our very own Gabriel Devine on, and Chris Berneski, and then of course the renegade investor from the UK, SegWit 2x. As is all the rage right now. Everybody's talking about it, so I definitely want to create a bit of a conversation around that and see where it goes.
Hard fork attack.
Sounds like some great stuff, and we'll be joining everyone live in the chat in about 30 minutes. And don't worry, we'll be shutting off this video just in time for you to switch over to the next video. So thanks so much, Jeff, for being on the show. We've got a couple more clips. I just wanted to harken back and remind everyone of what I think, tooting our own horn here, but I think is some really impressive work that we did in 2014 in November. We supported James Bang in Hong Kong. And I don't know if any of you remember, but in November of 2014, there was a democracy movement going on the streets of Hong Kong. And James Bang, one of the fans of our shows who watched World Crypto Network shows, took it upon himself to go out there with his phone and broadcast live to the internet and the world what was happening there in Hong Kong. And it was our honor to help broadcast his work and to deliver this kind of information live to the world. And it was really exciting that we could be involved in that. Our network and the world, YouTube and everything was even capable of this kind of technology. I recall many times waking up in the middle of the night to turn on a live stream for James so that he could get his word out. And there are many, many videos of this. And as you can see, this is a 2-hour video. I'm not sure what we're going to get, but we're going to watch just a couple minutes of James Bang and his heroic work live in Hong Kong, covering the democracy protests for the World Crypto Network.
We don't have a password.
They told me this is enough.
Okay,
yeah.
okay, wait a minute.
Okay. They're the ones who told me.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll get someone to take it in.
Thank you.
We had made James a press pass, as you can see, to allow him to go past the barricades into the protest, and it was actually quite successful. The Hong Kong police did respect his press pass, even though the World Crypto Network is hardly an official press network. As you can see, the riot police here. Here's James.
It's actually chaos right now as Lance police are charging into the students. They're charging into the students.
An incredibly dramatic scene there at the home of the Hong Kong Parliament, LegCo. Those windows in the background, several windows were broken during this protest. A rare show of violence for a Hong Kong demonstration. The Hong Kong people were the most incredibly polite demonstrators I've ever seen, even going so far as to bring out push brooms to clean up the broken glass and other things that were left in the street. But truly some incredible footage from James Bang. If you don't recall, James was at one point pushed to the ground by the police and held his phone defiantly in the air, broadcasting live to the internet the entire time. And I just really appreciated James' work on this, and it was an honor to work with him. And that's part of our history here at the World Crypto Network.
Well, he was also hit with a baton, or baton, as you say in the US, and he had to be taken to hospital. He was like seriously injured at one point. And this was never publicly announced, but the donations that you sent, some of them were lost, and he actually paid for them out of his own pocket. He reimbursed them because the phone that he had the Bitcoins on was destroyed. He was injured in an attack, and I think either it was destroyed or it got stolen. I can't remember. He reported it stolen. He actually filmed the report. We went to the police station. I was with him that night, UK time, and we filmed the whole thing. So you didn't know that, but he actually reimbursed those funds, and then he filmed.
A lot of that story happened because we collected Bitcoin donations to give the people dim sum. And James went to the restaurant himself, picked up the food, and took it to the people in the street and donated it to the people.
Yeah, that was his money. So what you didn't know back then is that phone that the initial donations got sent to was I think lost or stolen or something. He reported it stolen, and he ended up paying for that himself. So he is a hero in my eyes. That was really, really cool. That was really good of him.
Absolutely. And Theo and Blake, any thoughts on James and the work? We'll go to just Blake and then Theo.
Yeah, I mean, James's coverage of that entire event was just absolutely like the terror of being somewhere where the fabric of society is really, really, really stretched thin and starting to tear, and there's that many people around. Like, it makes me feel agoraphobic just thinking about there being that many people around shoulder to shoulder, and the fabric of politeness is starting to tear. Like, it's just, oh my God. And the fact that he got hurt almost makes me feel bad that we made him a press pass, and some other people felt bad about that too. And it's like, that's nothing that we didn't, take lightly. It's something that we also were like, oh man, like I wonder if any of the encouragement that we gave him got him hurt, and we felt really bad about that. But at the same time, I think that giving people that glimpse of what was happening, almost, before a lot of this, Mike Cernovich popularity and all these people that were getting into various situations and trying to film stuff live, this was before that. And I thought that it going into such a tumultuous area where, it's not that things in the US when they go awry are, fun and polite and easy, but again, with so many people so close together and being able to be there and to see it and experience it with James was really, really, really intense news. Probably some of the most intense news coverage I've ever watched, partially because we know him, but also partially because it's just imagining myself in that situation makes me feel scared.
We'd also ask him to move back, and we'd ask him to stay away from the trouble, but he would rush right in. He would take it upon himself. He was both a part of the story because he believed in democracy and he believed in the protesters, but he was also trying to cover the story and really get us that honest, on the ground news. I know after he was hurt, of course, unfortunately, he did get a helmet, and he would wear a helmet to the protest to protect himself. And I think that anyone who's going to do this work in the future, wear the helmet first. Take care of yourself, protect yourself. Very dangerous situations. Fortunately, James had a minor injuries, and he was knocked out. There's some serious things, but he was okay. He was able to walk away from this.
From an economic perspective, you only have one body, and you might get really upset about social unrest and stuff like that, but don't go out and get hurt. Like, just absolutely don't do that, and don't hurt other people. Don't do that.
And then Theo Goodman, your thoughts on James' work with the Hong Kong protests?
Yeah, I don't know if I have a whole lot to add. I think everyone said everything. I think that was, we did try our best to, I think it was an example of being transparent about, we raised the donations, and then he did a video of what he used the donations for, even if he did lose his phone. That was really good. That was a good example, I think, of how you could do it. you know, what did take a little bit of work. You know, you have to actually, you know, video yourself live and say, hey, look, I'm spending the money on this now. But that's a good example. And, you know, it was also an example of that Bitcoin is censorship free, because people were donating from all over the world to James directly and without anyone else's permission. And that is, you know, that is a viable use case. You know, if you see someone that you want to support and they say, hey, support me, then, you know, everybody chipped in and sent him money. And I think that was really good. Just some, you know, funny or things I do remember is about the press pass is that I remember him showing it to people on there, like, what? And he goes, YouTube. And they're like, oh, okay, go buy, you know. And sometimes it was enough to show the thing with YouTube, and that was already back then threatening enough that they didn't want to, you know, do anything bad on YouTube Live or whatever. That was sometimes entertaining. But yeah, he was really fearless, pretty much. You know, he was there every day, front line, you know, maybe even going a little too hard, but hey, it's kind of hard to tell. Yeah, sometimes. But, you know, yeah, he got the helmet and everything, so that was good.
What's that old saying? For God's sake, fear the flame. Please, my child, fear the flame. Like trying to encourage like the people that you're responsible for to be afraid of things that are appropriate to be afraid of.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, it was kind of tough because we can't. I mean, we can kind of see what's going on, but we didn't have the feeling like, hey, chill out now or something. You know what I mean? And then something would happen, and then it would be kind of a little difficult. But besides that, it was, of course, James did a good job. That was really good. We did a good job tag teaming, spending a whole lot of time doing live streams, having people maintaining them, getting it on, and I think that was that was really good. So I guess now so Thomas, is World Crypto Network mainstream now? Are we mainstream YouTube with all these views and everything?
I'm not sure we're mainstream YouTube. I think we've just been around a long time. But I agree with you, Theo. I was impressed by the teamwork of everyone chipping in to help get James on the air. He couldn't really create live streams from his phone yet, so we had to create them and then invite them. And it also helped to have someone kind of in the studio for when we lost touch with James, when he'd reconnect. And I recall one time calling up Derek J. And Derek has his own political views that didn't necessarily agree with protest. But Derek J. even then volunteered his time to get James on the air and to chip in for the greater good of the World Crypto Network, even if he didn't disagree with the protest actions and that kind of thing. So it was a really impressive time, and I'm glad that we did it, and I think it was a fantastic thing. Just a couple more clips to go to a little bit of a lighter note here. Here's Mad Bitcoins at the 2014 costume contest at the San Jose Comic Con. Let's take a look at this. Now what we did here is that we gave out Bitcoin QR wallets to all of our participants here. So I'm going to skip ahead. We had some sound problems. But here are our participants. And we gave everyone their own Bitcoin wallet inside an envelope. They had the only copy of the private keys. And if you wanted to vote for these contestants, you sent them Bitcoin right here to their QR code. And based upon that, the one with the most Bitcoin won. So it was a really fun contest. I hope these people cashed it out because they had about $300 in Bitcoin. You can see there's Mad Bitcoins cosplaying as Mad Bitcoins. And a lot of people might think that the prettiest girl or maybe the prettiest guy won this competition. But if you actually want to know, we can skip ahead here. It was the last entry. No, not her. But it was the last. Oh, there's a little Mad Bitcoins. Checking that out. It was this guy right here in the alien xenomorph costume who won the contest far and away. He had the most impressive, or perhaps she, I have no way of knowing, had the most impressive costume. And it was just a great time at the San Jose Comic Con. So thanks to everyone for donating back in the day. Got a couple more videos here. Here's an early Chris Before Coffee. Maybe, I think this is the first episode ever, live from Washington, D.C., June 21st, 2014.
Swinky.
Ellis in Washington, D.C.
Oh, come on, YouTube. Give us the power.
I'm useless before coffee. I don't know how you. Why did you think it was a good idea to do anything before coffee? What is the matter with you?
Well, Chris, we're totally stalled on the video, so you have to talk for yourself here.
On the old YouTube
Twinkies, though. Man, I had mad constipation after those Twinkies.
Too much
TMI.
information.
TMI.
They used to be like beef lard and powdered sugar, and now they're all synthetic. So you probably are gonna die.
We're live with Chris Ellis in Washington, D.C. So, Chris, how's the convention been going so far?
Been really good. I really love the Twinkies. They've been excellent. Had a great flight over. Really, really smooth. Got in a cab yesterday. It was the guy's first day. Took me 2 hours to get here from the airport. It was an absolute nightmare. But when I did get here, it's been really, really good. And when you look at DC from certain angles, you could be in London. Everything's a little bit bigger. Cars are bigger. The buildings are bigger. Some of them a bit bigger. So it's been really, really good fun. And last night we went out with Jason King, and we actually got a homeless lady, an actual hotel room in America. That was epic. There's so much I can learn from this guy. I'm really glad that I came here.
So you had an extra room.
That was, of course, Chris was hanging out with Jason King from Sean's Outpost, all the good work he does for the homeless with Bitcoin down there in Florida. We also have this random clip from the Bitcoin group, number 36.
The Bitcoin Group, the American original, filmed in front of a live studio audience for over the last... Woo! For over the last 10 seconds, the sharpest Satoshis, the best Bitcoins, the hardest cryptocurrency talk. We'd like to welcome our panelists, Chris Ellis from Feathercoin.
There's Chris rocking that yellow shirt again.
Derek J. Freeman from Peace News Now.
Good old Derek J.
Davi Barker from ShinyBadges.com.
I miss Davi. Davi.
Anderson from Facebook.com/GotBlake. Megan Lords from Bitcoin Not Bombs. Will Pangman from Bitcoin Milwaukee. And I'm Thomas Hunt from Mad Bitcoins.
There it is. We were live at Pork Fest in 2014. It's great to see the whole crew together. That was our second live show. We did another one in DC. Had a lot of echo. And here's one more, Chris Before Coffee.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Chris Before Coffee. Today we're going to be talking about the riots in Missouri and a lot of the very peaceful protests. We're going to be talking about JP Morgan's patent application, just for the lols. And we're going to be talking about the dramatic price drop in Litecoin since Max Kaiser's initial price target that he did back in November last year. So to start today, I thought I'd go straight to the Missouri story just because it's a little bit close to home for some of our guests here. I'm joined today by Theo and Nick. Say hi, guys.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
So
hi, everybody.
Hi, Theo.
Theo
So
and Nick. Good to see it. Back in the day. Good old Pi Rebel.
Yeah.
So Chris, how about that? A little...
Well, did everyone get whacked? Where did everyone go? What happened to Megan and like Davi and Pi Rebel and everyone?
They all got jobs, and I think Pi Rebel had a kid. So
No, that's not
congratulations to
what
Pi Rebel.
happened. That's not what happened. What happened is we all have our Bitcoin in multi-signature addresses that are with our loved ones. So when we were tortured, they couldn't get any information out of us. They didn't do that, and they all got compromised. So that's, that's what happened to them.
No, everyone moved on to other projects, and many of them are still active in Liberty. I think Derek J is doing a show called Flaming Freedom. You can check that out. It's a very thin audience, but I respect him for doing it. Megan's still out there doing stuff in Florida. Will's doing some Bitcoin stuff. I don't know. People drift off. Davi, interesting character, good old Davi. He's actually working on a series of books about kind of libertarian Boy Scouts fighting zombies. Great stuff.
Yeah, it's not Mad Max. It's called Max something, Max Zombie Fighter or something. If you Google, zombie
It's
story,
great stuff.
Davi Barker, it's good.
It puts out the ideas too, because they're kind of like Boy Scouts, but libertarian Boy Scouts.
So if you want your kids to read a fantasy story that's not full of white men are the devil, it might be good to read some of Davi's books, because sometimes this literature is like, hey, this makes me feel bad about myself, and I don't appreciate that.
We've had a lot of good times with the World Crypto Network. Chris, what about those old episodes there? What'd you think?
Yeah, I mean, like seeing myself back in the day, like, you know, for pre-migraine days, you know, like, yeah, it takes me back. But yeah, it's interesting that I'm still wearing that same yellow shirt. I never go clothes shopping, you see, that's the thing. I bought my first ever shirt when I was with you in San Francisco, and I went into that hippie shop. And what was that called? That area, that hippie area?
Haight Ashbury, very famous
Haight
hippie.
Ashbury, very famous area, which I never remember the name of. Yeah, I bought like a hippie shirt, which is like, oh, it's here.
Was that before or after I left? I didn't see you buy a hippie shirt.
No, after you, yeah, there it is. This was the first piece of clothing I bought since 2013. I don't clothes shop ever.
It's funny because I sit here being all like ha ha ha, but I'm the exact same way. The only reason that I have clothes that are new is because my wife is just like, all of your clothes make you look homeless. Here, I know what size you are, like, wear these instead. And I'm like, I'm an adult, I could have done that myself, but obviously I wouldn't have.
A whole load of, like, you know, those turtlenecks, which obviously I can't wear in summertime. So the summertime I just have this yellow shirt and a bunch of like giveaway. You know how you go to the meetups and they give away like shirts with like branding on? I just wear those.
Nothing but logos. The ultimate philosopher dressed in nothing but logos.
Well, I did that too, and before I did that, I would go to concerts in my youth, and then I would just be like, "This is my favorite band," and wear this T-shirt for like 3 months, and you know, like that's how I grew up. So then
I've still got the Free Ross T-shirt. Remember the Free Ross T-shirts? And again,
Those are good. At Porkfest, we all met Ross's mother, Mrs. Albright. I forget her name, but yeah, she was a lovely lady, and very unfortunate what happened to her son. Quite a surprise. He was a Boy Scout, very upstanding student, and she had no idea that he had taken on such a dark alternate identity, allegedly, of course. Theo Goodman, what do you think of the old videos? Good to revisit old times?
Sure, that was really interesting. That little clip you had, that was a, you know, really mix of politics and talking about the beginning of the 2014 alt-apocalypse, or I don't know how I could say that, but you know, Litecoin had begun to really dump hard, and I think around then you can look on it. It was in the summer, and it went below 0.01 BTC around then. That was a pretty big deal back then that it did that Litecoin. And a lot of the altcoins, you know, that had gone up the beginning of 2014 really started to dump, because you had a big, you know, you had a lot of things happening. You had Dogecoin, you had all that stuff. That was, you know, end of 2013, beginning of 2014, and then in the summer it was all going coming to a halt basically right then. Yeah, it's good to see the old shows. You know, yeah, everyone just take a look through the old shows and just pick one random one. I think you'd be surprised what you find. It might be funny, it might be interesting. I think definitely you would be surprised.
It was quite a different time back then with the altcoins, as they went up and then suddenly went down. You wonder if we're in a similar time now where the altcoins have gone up and maybe they'll go down. But again, no one knows the future. And I agree, Theo. It's great to go back in the archives and look at some old videos. We're almost out of time here. It's around 11:50, almost time for the Vortex show. So let's just have some closing thoughts. We were also talking about the idea maybe a World Crypto Network convention. Maybe there's been thoughts on Twitter about a Bitcoin only or technology only convention where we would not focus so much on the business applications of this, but maybe the technical or the philosophical or the societal advances of Bitcoin. And I'm interested in this idea. I think it should be in Vegas where it's cheap. I think it should be at the D Hotel, who will probably help us because they like Bitcoin. And it should be inexpensive to go, and everyone should have a fun time.
And I think that we definitely want to have like a journalistic integrity or journalism and contribution to the space track, where people can learn more about how to digest information, about steel manning other people's arguments so that they can, you know, engage in academic leveling and maybe be more productive in terms of discussing their ideas and stuff like that. I want and I don't think I'm alone in this conference to be more of how can we positively influence the space instead of how can we make lots of money and get just, lots of advertisement from, the most degenerate of scammers, and then just try to be like, yeah, they're sponsoring it, but, don't really buy that. That just seems to me like there's been so many Bitcoin conferences as of late that go into this, infinite rationalization cycle for technologies that are trying to be reverse engineered to do things that they're not meant to do, and that's a waste of time. And I think that nobody wants to see another one of those, and I think that a World Crypto Conference could hopefully be done differently.
And if we can't do it in person, we can do it online. It's not unreasonable to say we could have a nice 8-hour hangout with some speeches, invite everyone from around the world, have our friends share it. Chris Ellis, your thoughts on the network, maybe the convention, closing thoughts here. Go ahead.
We used to do town hall meetings, and they were pretty popular in the beginning, I think, because people were, kind of hyped up, and something I do want to talk about later on in another show, maybe in a town hall, is the opportunity, because we've had these kind of really privileged roundtables, and we have the consensus where it's like $1,000 tickets. I think we should do. We've talked before. One of the members here in London, we had an idea for doing a coin summit. But then some troll took the domain name after he came up with the idea. It's a bit of a shame. We should do something like that, a coin slummit, as opposed to a coin summit. And we should deliberately make it as easy, as accessible as possible. So that maybe there could be a geocentric thing, but maybe it's distributed and everyone can set up cameras in their events and have breakout chats. But I also think that on this network, we should have a serious discussion about because the reason about remuneration, because we now live in a space where there is a land grab for media space. Like CoinDesk is worth, millions of dollars. Barry Silbert owns it, and then you've got David Bailey. He's bought, this magazine, that magazine. Who owns World Crypto Network? Like what if there was a buyout? Advertising. So I really want us to talk about that. Because it may come up. Like somebody's already contacted me about ProTip, about buying it. I made a statement on Max Kaiser and elsewhere that I would sell ProTip for 21 million Bitcoins, right? As in, I won't sell it. So, I think we need to have, a conversation about it, because Brave Browser has raised, 30 million in 8 seconds, and therefore it's got a market cap of 150 million, and therefore ProTip on paper is worth 1% of that. It must be worth 1.5 million automatically, right? On paper. No, I didn't get into this for that reason. And so I think it would be good for us to have another town hall meeting and talk about these issues, and have a coin slummit, and have like distributed people, taking part, and go, to discuss what we do from here.
And David Bailey and BTC Media also recently bought the Let's Talk Bitcoin network.
Yes, that's right.
I'm not sure if a lot of people have been talking about that, but it is a major network that Adam Levine and Andreas and Stephanie started on back in the day, and a lot of other shows. So it is interesting to see what's going to happen in the future of BTC Media and Bitcoin media in general. You see at the end of almost every CoinDesk article, to their credit and perhaps to their detriment, a disclaimer saying that they're owned by the same companies that they are reporting on.
Yes.
They are sticking to journalistic standards, and we hope that that's true, and we respect them for trying to walk this tightrope, but it is a tightrope. If they had secret information that would destroy one of their companies, would they go public or would they save the company? And that's the question that they have to face internally. And we have to go forward with these Bitcoin media. A lot of them produce beautiful, color, glossy magazines full of ads, and the content itself is an ad. You never know. It's a very tough space with journalism. It's very hard to raise funds. Frequently, the news was thought of as a loss leader for major corporations. Then they turned it into news entertainment, a la the Anchorman 2 movie. Can't recommend it enough, even though the second half's a bit of a train wreck. It's still
the second half is like a bad acid trip, but it's a really funny movie.
It's a fun movie. I think the second half's getting funnier and funnier. Will Ferrell just sticking with the blind bit, going all out with it. But the beginning, where they're at Fox News,
Checkers and coffee,
and he says, "What are we going to do? We're on at 2 a.m. in the middle of the night." And he says, "Pictures of squirrels water skiing, beautiful women, dogs, American flags, fireworks." That's what the people want. And maybe that is what they want. Maybe they don't know what they want. Maybe they want a mixture.
And I think that's a great point. I mean, the World Crypto Network, like if you people don't know, I mean, we've all been volunteering our time. Like this is us volunteering our time. If we have an opinion that we want to express, there's basically no force that's going to stop us from doing that. And the reason that we can do that is because we don't, we're not beholden to certain advertisers. Recently, Tucker Carlson has, he's on Fox and he debates and stuff, and he has this other media outlet, and he had to fire one of his people because they wanted to publish a story that was critical of Fox. And Tucker was like, I understand this story needs to be published, but you have to publish it elsewhere because they're my employer. He was very honest about the conflict of interest and said, I have a conflict of interest, you can't publish that. But avoiding financial situations wherein there is a conflict of interest where you have to edit or censor your content, not doing that at the World Crypto Network, I think has been really, really important, and I want to see it continue that way. If there's any way to make revenue from decentralized sources, I think that is okay, but making revenue from somebody that you have to be beholden to, that ends up definitely damaging the message.
And maybe there's someone out there that's good at running conferences. Maybe you've done this before and you'd like to volunteer to essentially set up and run the World Crypto Network conference, the Bitcoin only conference. People have been talking about on Twitter. We don't own this idea. We want everyone to be involved. Go ahead and contact us. Hit us up on Twitter at MadBitcoins and tell us your ideas for the Open Bitcoin Conference. And finally, we're going to go to Theo for a last word, just your thoughts on 3 years of the World Crypto Network as we're almost out here.
Well, it seems a lot longer than 3 years, actually, because as you know, in crypto world, probably every month is about a year in lifespan experience. And that's what it seems like. So we're really in hyperdrive right now. And especially if you look at the videos, just think about all the stuff that happened between any of the videos we saw. Easy, if you think about it, just the advances, all kinds of stuff. It's really unbelievable. As far as World Crypto, I agree. We need to have a discussion, open discussion about how to go forward. And the reason that people, I can't speak for other people, but strongly suspect the reason that people find value in World Crypto Network is because it's how it is. Because we are not all, we do try to have quality standards, especially Thomas, you've done a real good job with the thumbnails and all that stuff. I just mean that we are not, just the glossy ads and then add as the, this is pretty raw stuff. This is, I don't know, another real independent channel of media in the space like that. I mean, if you do know one, that's great. I'm not against checking it out, but I don't really know one that's like. And also, the reason that it works is because, different people from all over have contributed. So if you are in World Crypto Network, then join the Slack, hit Thomas up on Twitter, come in the Slack, talk, make a video, show what you've been doing, talk to us. It's kind of like, we'd have to also talk about, there is no formal process, just kind of like how you meet people. Hey, come on, talk to us, show us what's up. Maybe we like each other, maybe we get along, etc. That's the best way I can explain it right now. That's why it worked. How did we find Vortex? Vortex watched our videos. He said, hey, Theo, I watched some of your videos. That's cool. I want to do that too. And I said, okay, just do it. He's like, but how do I do it? Okay, well, this is what you do. And then he just did it. So that's great. That's just an example of someone that, really did it, and he's gotten little by little better and better with his show. And is it on now, or when?
We're just getting ready. We've got 2 minutes left on the clock to flip over to Vortex.
That's all I said. Hey, if we want to do a conference, fine. We can do a conference. We can do a conference with videos and whatever kind of stuff. That's fine. Yeah, Las Vegas. Why not? Let's do Las Vegas. Let's get some real expensive venue to sponsor us a place. With like I don't know. Ivory Tower, I don't know, whatever, we got to have, the Eiffel Tower in the front of the place or whatever kind of stuff you get in Vegas. Let's get some waterfalls in there, and whatever else. But it can still be accessible to everybody. It can be free. It can be donation. I don't know, however you want to do it. But
we're running low on time, but Theo's
all right. Las Vegas, Limit is coming. Watch out,
baby. And the World Crypto Network puts the meat in the crypto sandwich. course, we're going to get complaints from meat eaters that don't eat meat. So vegetarians.
We're going to give you the hot beef injection over here at the WCN.
And we put the protein powder in the perfectly acceptable tofu sandwiches.
Soya.
And we're running out of time, but of course, we're starting to get more viewers, of course, right at the end. We went from about 160 to 197. So thanks for joining us. We're going to flip over now to the Vortex. It's the Bitcoin news show right here on the World Crypto Network. You might have to refresh or go back to the videos, but we're going to join you in the chat. We're going to see you guys there. And thanks so much for watching us. 1 million views. Here's to 1 million more. Thank you guys so much. Check out the archives. If you find something cool, send us the link on Twitter. We like cool stuff too. A lot of us have forgotten the archives. I'm sure there's lots of cool stuff that we said. Thanks so much for joining us. We're out of time. Until next time, bye-bye.